anytime, once again, that we're telling ourselves this is the only way, this isn't possible, I can't do it because, those are limiting beliefs. And so truly, that's one of the reasons why I talk about limiting beliefs so much in the book. It's because it's been one of the biggest things that I had to overcome on my spiritual journey. Because when we look at ourselves from a spiritual place, we are truly limitless. You can do anything. Any one of us can, because we are meant to be limitless.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the podcast Fly with Mel. I use this podcast to talk about all the personal development that we can get by living far from home. I tell some stories, but most of the time I invite people that I meet along the way to share their own. This podcast is an open door to the world because I truly believe that everyone you meet has something to teach you. So I invite you to take a seat and enjoy the flight. Hello, everyone. Today we welcome Kesley Tweed, author of The Ascended Life, a new book that will change the way you think about spirituality and life. So, in a nutshell, this is a book designed to help people on their spiritual journey if they feel lost or stuck. This book gives some tools to listen to your intuition, to learn about astrology, to tackle some potential limiting beliefs, and we will discuss all of that today. But first, let me welcome Kesley Tweed. Hi, Kesley.
Hello, Mel. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be back with you and just chatting with you, sharing space with you. You always bring such a positive energy. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the podcast. And you're saying you're back on it because, yes, we recorded an episode previously together, which talked about empathy, positive energy, and how not to be controlled by the emotions around us, or just not to be a sponge, let's say. So I invite everyone who is going to listen to that podcast today to also go back to the previous one that we did together. Thank you so much for being here today to talk about your new book. So that's exciting.
It is very exciting. It's a long time coming. So I'm just so happy to be here talking about it and sharing about it.
Well, I'm glad. I'm happy as well. And I can feel the energy flowing about happiness. So that's great. I'm going to keep the smile on my face. I feel like the listener can always hear when we are smiling. So I'll keep that. But I will just introduce you briefly, and then please jump in to say who you are exactly, because I feel like you had 1,000 different lives. You are mostly... So I know that most importantly, you're a spiritual guide, right? But you're also a Reiki master, an NLP practitioner, a light worker. So maybe let's just start to unravel all of that. Who are you and how do you want to describe yourself, but also what's your current purpose?
Wow, that is a beautiful and big first question. So as you mentioned, I am a spiritual guide. So my purpose is to really take people by the hand, meet them where they are, wherever they are in life, wherever they are on their spiritual journey, and take them from where they are to where they want to be. So I'm a big believer that we can truly manifest whatever we desire in life. And when it comes to growth, when we can really align with and dig into and be honest with ourselves about what our truest and deepest intentions are on that path to what we desire, is where we become our best self. And so I'm a big believer in the spiritual journey being rooted in what are those goals? What are those dreams? What are those aspirations that spirit has put on your heart? Mm-hmm. And how do we help you become the person who can live that life and create those dreams? So that's a big part of what I see on my journey as a spiritual guide. And right now, I feel is more important than ever. I'm seeing so many people waking up as I'm out there having conversations. I was just at a conference this last week, a conference completely unrelated to spirituality. And the types of conversations I was having with people, we are at a whole new place in this reality. And so I'm excited by the work. I'm inspired by all those who are interested in spirituality and manifestation and all the things that I've been doing since way back in 2016 and 2017, when it was kind of just starting to to take off, and people were just starting to wake up. So yeah, I'm here. I'm ready. I feel like I was born to do this. Like I came into this reality to do this work, and the time is now. So it's very exciting.
It is extremely exciting, Kesley, and I wish that a lot of people will reach out to you, because I've been practicing a lot of things that are in your book, in the Ascended Life book, and you give a lot of exercises and tools. And I know that when you put the effort, focus, and energy into something, you can definitely manifest the life that you want, and at least reconnect with yourself, with your emotions, but also with your power. And I think that's very, very important, to discover our power and also use it, and not just be a spectator of our life, right? And not just observe our life. So thank you for all the great work you're doing. And I cannot wait to just go deeper into all of that today. But tell me just one thing. So I'm in Australia, Sydney. You're currently in Colombia, right? So are you
Yes,
going all around the world? Because you're originally from the US. Last time you talked to me from Atlanta.
Yes, our full-time home is in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I am, if you read the book, any of you who read the book will pick up on this. I have always been a traveler in my soul. I love to go and see the world and experience the world. And so my husband and I had a daughter about a year and a half ago. Gosh, is now a year and a half. And one of my deepest desires and a manifestation that I wanted to bring into reality was to show her the world, right? Like not just have her read about the world, but even from a young age, start to travel and see the world. And so we actually decided late last year that we wanted to kind of start that journey here in the new year. And so on January 1st, we left our home in Atlanta, Georgia. We left the dogs and the cat, and had a friend stay at the house, and my husband, his son, our daughter, and myself all came to Colombia to live for, we didn't really know how long, but we've now been here for about almost 3 months, and we'll be here for a couple more months. So we're just experiencing Colombia for now, and plan to experience other parts of the world later in the year or next year. We will go back to Atlanta and live for a couple months over the summer and into the so it's still to be determined. We're free spirits. We'll see where everything takes us. But for right now, we love this country, the people, the food, the everything about it, the energy, the sun. It's amazing.
It sounds amazing. Definitely. Keep a spot for me, please. I'll come and visit you anytime soon, I feel like. But that's really good. And I and I feel that you have this kind of light way of living. But I know that it hasn't been always the case, especially after reading your book, where you talk about your whole story. And I feel like it's very interesting sometimes to see the story behind any coach or spiritual guide or someone who is here to help, etc. I feel like just listening and hearing to the story, and the fact that you've been through some hard times, and sometimes we can relate to what you've been through, it's very important. And I feel like it's necessary sometimes for our own growth and healing, to just be able to say, okay, she's helping now because she's also been there, and she's helping now because she's been through even darker times. And yeah, that's beautiful that you could share all your vulnerability and all your past stories in the book. So first, let's talk about the book. Who is it for? What is it? How do you describe it? Just like, in a nutshell, let's say, because we're going to go deeper into some topics that are there. But
for sure. So the Ascended Life is what I'm calling the ultimate spiritual guide. So it is a personally guided journey through the spiritual awakening process, into the healing process, and into the manifestation part of the awakening and the spiritual journey. So the book actually starts out with me in the heart of my spiritual awakening, like on my knees, crying to the universe, help me, who am I? Like, this weight that I've been carrying internally is too great to bear. Something's got to shift. So it takes, and I can go into detail on, a lot of the stories and things that are in the book, but essentially it's how I got from there into where I am now, which is just like a lightness that I never dreamt was possible. Like, absolutely, I have my days and my moments and my growth moments, and those days where you're like, the tears come, or you're in a struggle or whatever. Yes, that still comes, but overall, it's just a lightness of heart and a joy and an alignment. And that's really what the book is designed to do, is to help people find that inner alignment with self, with their highest self, self-love, and a connection to whatever higher power they believe in, their higher self, God, the universe, whatever that is, helping you build that connection. Because let's be honest, this human journey can be a lot if we're trying to do it on our own, if we don't have that connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what the book is connecting you to you and connecting you to something even bigger than yourself.
I'm curious to know what made you realize that you wanted to write this book, because it's a big masterpiece, and like it's not not everyone start to write the whole their own journey. So what made you want to write the book?
Well, it actually goes back to childhood. I knew from the time I was a little girl that I would write a book someday. I mean, that has been one of my biggest lifelong dreams. I didn't know what the book would be about. I knew it would be a story of a personal story, a story of overcoming, a story and a journey of introspection. And then I talk about this in the book. I actually went through a divorce when I was in my late 20s. And I knew when I went through that process, there had to be a purpose for the pain that I was going through. And I knew that the story and the experience that I had could really help people. And I kind of thought it would stop there, that maybe the book would just be about, the heartbreak of divorce and overcoming that. But then once I went through this whole spiritual journey and everything that was, that I learned through that was encompassed in that I went through, and as I dug into these deeper layers of psyche that had been there my whole life, but I didn't realize what they were about until I went through my spiritual awakening, the story just kept kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. And so again, like I kind of knew as I was going through that someday there would be a book. And then around probably 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there, I reached a point where I had learned so much and I had started coaching, and I just felt the call that it was the time and that I had a lot to share. I had been gifted a lot. I had been given a lot. I was grateful for all the mentors that I had. I talk about many of them in the book, and the tools and the teachings. And it just honestly felt like a call from the universe, something that I had to do, that I was born to do. And it took me, about 7-8 years, but it's finally there. Yeah. And it feels
amazing.
good. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Well done. And it's great to see that there is never a right or wrong time, let's say. Like, it's not about being late. You're saying that you wanted to write it since your childhood, and you did it at some point in your life, and it's not about rushing it and doing it straight away when you feel that you have to do it. Sometimes you have a process to go through before.
Exactly. And the funny, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was going to say is, like, the funny part is I kept thinking the book was done. I'd kind of like reach what would feel like the ending of the story, and what I would find out is that it was just the end of a chapter, and then there'd be another chapter and another chapter and another chapter, and finally I reached this place last year after the birth of my daughter, and that's kind of the final chapter of the book, where I was like, okay, now that feels complete. This part of the journey at least is ready to be shared. And I guarantee there will be other books. There will be parts 2s and 3s, and I can already kind of see that coming, but it just felt like now is the time. And like I said, I just feel like the pace at which people are waking up, that this was the perfect time to put it out there.
Yeah.
So,
and I love what you said just before about there is a purpose behind the pain you're going through. I feel this is very, very powerful. It's a powerful quote. And I feel like anyone who is listening now and who is going through a painful time, who is going through dark times and feeling very stuck, maybe there is always a purpose behind that. And just stick to where you are, and like be strong, and there is something happening for you very, very soon. So I like what you just said.
Absolutely. And I think for those too who are on a spiritual path and they're looking for purpose, a lot of times the medicine that we learn to give ourselves is the medicine that we are meant to share with others. So through that process, that's why I share the tools in the book. It's like, well, if I use these and this was the medicine I needed, how many other people can benefit from this same medicine, from this same tools and teaching and gifts? So I agree with you. Whoever's out there and you're going through a tough time, like, start to journal about it. Like, start to take notes about it. Remember where you are now and what you're using to help yourself, because that will help someone else someday when the time is right.
Exactly. I love that. So, okay. There are a lot of different topics in this book that I want to tackle with you. And I don't want to talk just about the book, because I really want to invite people to reach out to you and get the book, because really there is a lot of golden nuggets in there, and a lot of things that can help people, especially I would say maybe beginners in their spiritual journey, or people who have been there since a long time but really feel stuck, kind of. You talk in the book about limiting beliefs. And I know that it's something that people talk a lot about these days, but some people still don't really know what is a limiting belief, first of all, and how to identify them for themselves. So how can we identify limiting beliefs, and what are they?
Yeah. Okay, that's an awesome question. So first of all, a limiting belief is any way that you are limiting yourself, right? So if you are wanting to, let's say you want to manifest love in your life. You're like, oh yeah, but there are no great guys out there, or I'm not pretty enough, or that online dating thing, that doesn't work. Those are limiting beliefs. So limiting beliefs can be about yourself, they can be about other people, or they can be in general about the world. And the way to identify them is simply this: if there is anything that you desire or want in your life, if there's any change that you want to see and you've been unable to manifest it or create it in your life, the reason is about 99% of the time because of a limiting belief. Oftentimes we think it's an action, but if you're not in the right energy, it doesn't matter what actions you're taking. They're not going to manifest unless you internally believe that it's possible. So our external reality is purely a mirror image of what's going on inside. Mm-hmm. So if there's things outside in your world that you don't like and you want to change, look inside first and look at where your beliefs about yourself, specifically, most importantly, are stopping you from creating what you desire.
Okay. And so we do have a lot of limiting belief, all of us. And this come from life experiences and childhood and trauma and all of that. But we can definitely identify them and tackle them ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a lot of the practices I give in the book, is how to actually start to go through and identify that, and what to do once you do identify them. Right. So oftentimes if I'm, working towards something, I have a goal, I want to manifest something, and it's not happening, the first thing I do is I'll sit in quiet and I'll start to observe my inner language, my inner dialogue. That's a beautiful place to start to look for your inner beliefs, is what do I say to myself repeatedly, right? What does that inner voice say? Anytime it's coming from lack, it's coming from limitation, it's coming from comparison or jealousy or doubt or fear, any of those things, that is a limiting belief. And it's not even you. That's not your soul, right? That's most often we hear it called your ego, right? That's your ego self. Anytime that we're playing small, that we're keeping ourselves small, that we believe that we are small or not enough, that is our ego. That is not the voice of love. So what we want to do is we want to get that out. We want to start to identify it, because one of the greatest ways to start create change in our lives is simply through that act of identifying and observing what's going on internally. And so I also talk a lot in the book about meditation. And that's one of the best ways to start to observe what's going on internally. Because I was one of those people, like a lot of achievers. I'm sure you have a lot of super achievers that listen to your podcast, Mel, because I know you're really into personal development, things like that. That was me. And it was so externally focused. It was about the goals. It was about other people's approval. It was about what was I achieving? How much money was I making? What kind of accolades was I doing? How fast could I run a marathon? Whatever it was, right? And because it was so externally focused and I was so externally motivated, I wasn't trained to listen to my own inner dialogue and feel my own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big part and is a big part of the spiritual journey. You hear people talking about shadow work, right? That's where all begins, is by being able to start to listen to your own inner self, your inner voice, your emotions, your thoughts, your inner dialogue.
And it can feel quite hard, especially when you are starting and when there is a lot of noise happening around you and in your mind. It can feel quite hard to say, okay, now I'm just going to sit here and journal or meditate and just see what happens. And I've heard that a lot, and I've been here myself, and I'm here still there. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to just meditate, just listen to the waves and meditate here. But I have like so much noise happening in my mind and things going on in loops and, these kind of things. And that's where personally I discovered different type of meditations. And that's what I loved in your book. And I resonated with that so much, is the fact that meditation is not just one, there is not just one way to do it. Meditation can be anything that helps you shut down the brain and calm down. And my way of meditating, and I discovered that a month ago when at Christmas I had a Secret Santa present, which was a massive puzzle with 1,000 pieces. And I never did any puzzle in my life. I think when I was a kid, I was never patient enough to do that. But I started that this year at 32 years old, right? And I loved it. And every night I would come back and excited about spending an hour doing this puzzle. And I really realized that me, who identify myself as an hyperactive person who is not really patient, I discovered that I could be patient and I could be not hyperactive for an hour if I was just focusing on one task that was making me feel good, because I was shutting down my brain and shutting down the noise. I could just think about the puzzle. And that's what you say in the book. It's like meditation is just not the art of sitting and listening to your breath. You have active meditations, and I love that.
Yes, absolutely. I like to say your meditation, your rules. Don't listen to what anybody else says meditation should be for you. Don't listen to anybody else tell you what anything should be in your life, right? Especially something like meditation, which is all about connecting you with you, taking your focus from external to internal, turning off the outside world and just coming home to spirit. So for you, Mel, like that's amazing. Like if you feel at home and peaceful and happy doing a puzzle, that's amazing meditation. My whole meditation journey, we'll call it, actually started running. I was a runner and I ran marathons, and that would be the most amazing meditation, just going out in nature and turning off everything and just losing myself to the run, to the moment, to just the positive energy that was within me and around me, right? And then when I actually wanted to learn how to start meditating, I was like you, like I had to be doing something all the time. Like I had goals, I had things to do, like I was just that person. And so to start, I actually would go onto a treadmill and I would turn the speed like way down, and I would hold on with one hand and I would close my eyes and I would walk, because that was like one way I could start to slow myself down. And then that transitioned into meditating while doing like different yoga poses or different stretches. And then over time, I finally got to the place where I was able to actually just sit and be. And what I learned, and I talk about this in the book as well, one of my very first kind of formal meditations, I was doing something called transcendental meditation. And I'll just put that out there because I think it's a great tool if people are interested in learning and going deeper into the meditation practice. But I was going through kind of my initiation into this type of meditation. And after the meditation, I was with an instructor and she looked at me and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, oh, wow. Like it was one of the first times I'd really tuned into what was going on internally. And I said, wow, like I actually feel, and I didn't even know what the emotion was. And I realized after sitting there for a moment, it was anger. I was feeling angry. I had balled up all these emotions from the past, from my divorce, from all these things. And I had been stuffing it down and stuffing it down. And the reason I didn't want to sit still was because I was afraid to feel that. I was afraid to move through that. I was afraid that I would break down and lose it. And I did, honestly. But when I completely let go, I cried there in that room for about 30 minutes by myself, and I left feeling like a new woman. Like I had purged, like I had opened up a new part of myself, a deeper part of myself.
Mm.
And so meditation can feel, I get it, like it can feel scary to think about just letting go and losing ourselves to ourselves and allowing ourselves to sit and to feel and to be. But in the end, you will become something completely different. It's like you will emerge like that butterfly from the cocoon and be able to like transcend any of the baggage or the past that you've been trying to outrun. You can't outrun it. That's what I learned from running marathons. It's like you can't outrun anything. You've got to move through it if you want to be free. And so that's really meditation and the whole spiritual journey and self-reflection and healing. That's what it's about, is that journey to like true freedom, true freedom.
Wow, that is beautiful. There is a quote in the book that says, intuition is seeing with the soul. And so you talk about intuition a lot, and I think it's related to what you were just saying before. But first of all, can you just tell me what is your definition of intuition? Because I think we can have different ones, and I want to challenge you on that topic.
Okay. So in my own words, intuition is that inner sense of knowing that we all have. It's not the brain, it's the heart, it's the soul, and it comes from our connection to something higher, right? So it's that divinity within us, that God force within us, that ability to have, even though that we're here and we're having a human experience, like I believe we're a soul in a body having a spiritual experience, right? And so it's that connection to our higher self, our larger self, our God self that knows what is best at every moment.
Okay.
That's what I believe intuition.
I am aligned with you on that. And that's what I've always thought it was like that. For me, intuition is the feeling that when you shut down all the noise, you have this little voice within you that is telling you and guiding you and telling you the right way to do things, or guiding you and giving you the answers that you're looking for. Right. And I've been talking about that with, I'm in personal development a lot, and I'm surrounded by people who are in this type of field as well. And I've been discussing intuition with one friend who actually told me, Mel, you cannot tell people to listen to their intuition. Don't say that. Like, don't tell them that if you're trying to help people out there. Don't tell them to listen to their intuition. And I was like, that's the first time I hear that. What do you mean? And she said,
why someone would say that.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was the very first time I could hear that, because like in everywhere, we always hear, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. Your intuition will tell you, just listen to your intuition. And for the first time, I had someone just challenging me and just telling me something different. And I was like, but what do you mean? Why wouldn't I listen to my intuition? And she said, because your intuition is biased by your past experiences, your childhood, your trauma, and you're kind of like always going to come back to these past experiences to then take a decision. And this doesn't allow you to recreate yourself. And this kind of like, it shocked me, because I was like, that's not wrong. That's the way it's an Australian way to always say things are right. It's like, it's not wrong.
Not wrong. I can see why this person would have this perspective, because what she's talking about is our inner voice. And we have two voices that we hear inside, right? One is shaped by those traumas, those past experiences, right? And that's our head, that's our brain. That's not our soul, that's not our intuition. But they can be very confusing, the difference between our soul or intuition and our mind, and our past experiences and our fears and our traumas and all that. It can be very tricky. And we have to learn to feel. I believe you can only feel the difference, right? Because anytime it's those fears and trauma, you do this with me, Mel, like you think about it, like it feels heavy. It feels like, a warning. It feels like stay small, like don't do this, like avoid risk, right? And our body starts to tighten up.
Mhm.
And it doesn't feel light. It doesn't feel like we're being guided forward. And our intuition always wants what's best for us. It's always going to speak to us and show us and teach us and guide us in a loving way. It feels aligned. It feels like we're being pulled forward instead of kept in a shell, right? And anytime we feel that, like that heaviness, that shell, that worry, that fear, that doubt, that's not our intuition. But we have to become well versed in learning to feel within ourselves the difference between the two.
See, I didn't know there were two different things. So it makes,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It actually makes sense.
Yes. And our intuition is above. Our intuition is beyond, it's bigger, it's deeper than our fears, our traumas, so we have to, and this is a practice that I love to share with people. I actually have this on one of my Instagram reels, helping people get out of their head and into their heart, right? Because when we're up here, and a lot of times this is where I kind of came to with like personal development and personal growth and all that, which I love. I'm a huge fan, but sometimes it can get kind of heady. Like we're trying to figure it all out with our head. So we've got to be able to drop that center of focus and guidance from our brain down into our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can do that just by breathing into your heart, focusing on your heart, and just learning how to tap into that energy source and have our heart feed our brain, as opposed to our brain feeding our heart in our path.
And how do you do
So,
that? If there is a practice that you can
yeah.
explain quickly, but how do
Yeah,
we?
it's practice. So literally just, breathing, starting to breathe deep, just like you're going to meditate, right? Closing your eyes.
Mm.
And then you can kind of feel, right? Like there oftentimes for me, when I first close my eyes, there's a source of energy and kind of the action is happening up in my brain. And so I like to imagine like if there's a ball of light up in the center of my forehead, and I just imagine that ball of light, that concentration of energy, seeing it drop down all the way down into my heart space, and then start to feel the heart heat up. See that light down in the center of the chest in the heart chakra. Open up the shoulders and just breathe into the heart. And it slows down the mind and it drops you down into your heart, your soul, your spirit, as opposed to letting the mind run the show. How did that feel for you, Mel?
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
Relaxing. It feels relaxing.
Mhm. Yes. And when we're in that relaxed state, our intuition can speak to us. It can't speak to us if we're trying to control and, force things and let all the doubts come up. We've got to drop into our heart.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one of the very first practices that I would encourage people to do every day, whether you're doing puzzles or you're sitting and doing meditation, like do it from your heart space. Let your heart lead.
Do you sometimes like ask a question, like throw a question out there to the universe and then listen and then try to have some answers? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite ways to meditate and to receive guidance.
Mm.
And oftentimes what I like to do is I like to write it down so that I'm very intentional with my questions. So I did that actually this morning. I was on the beach meditating, and I probably do this at least once or twice a week where, I'll have my journal or my phone and I'll just write down, like if it's one question, or today I think I had a series of like 4 or 5 different questions. And I just write them down and I set the intention and I close my eyes and drop into my heart and I just listen. And the answers always come. They always come. Sometimes it will be revealed to you. Here's what you need to focus on now. Like it's not always like immediately here's the answer. Most of the time it is, but sometimes it's going to be revealed to you. And so that is a practice that I love. Something else very similar to that process is called the Akashic Records. And I talk about the Akashic Records, I think a little bit in the book. That's something else if people are looking to even go deeper into accessing their intuition. That's one of the ways that I started to develop my intuition. So yeah,
Thank
I
you for
would
sharing.
definitely. Yes.
I'm gonna practice that even more and more and more to take some big decisions.
Yeah.
You were talking about chakras just now, and you talked about that a lot in the book as well, and related to also astrology, Reiki. So there's a lot of things to unravel here. I think there is a quote that I wrote down about astrology, but yeah, in the book you say that astrology is an ancient system that uses the wisdom of the cosmos, the sun, moon, stars, and other planets to provide guidance to those of us living on Earth, and astrology connects us with the universe itself. This is very profound. This is extremely profound, and I am not connected or familiar with astrology that much. But yet when people talk about it, I'm really curious and open, and I do understand things, and I do think that some stuff do make sense together. So how do you link astrology with personal development?
Yes. So I truly believe that we were given astrology as a tool to help us not just survive, but thrive here in this human experience. So what I love about astrology is two things. Number one, when things start to get a little bit bumpy and you're trying to figure out why, oftentimes astrology can provide us with answers and also solutions, because we can look within our own charts to see, okay, what is this telling me? What can I find in my chart that tells me about my inner psyche that will help me overcome this experience? Where there's a challenge that we might see in our chart, there's always a remedy, there's always medicine for that. There's always a solution. So it can really help us in those challenging times in life. And also when you start to look at the movement of the current planets, right? Like where things like, for example, as we're recording this podcast, we are about to enter eclipse season. And eclipse season is when we have like big major life changes happen in our lives, where things are ending and new beginnings are happening. And so oftentimes when we look back at our lives, those big changes do happen during those eclipse seasons. So people often wonder like, well, what's going on up there right now? And so it can help explain that. But also when it comes to personal development, our birth chart helps us see what is amazing about us and what our fullest potential, our highest self could look like if we were to really flow with the universe. And so I like to help people look at their birth chart and find out what are those beautiful aspects of you. How can you start to nurture them, bring them to the surface, become more confident in them? And oftentimes what I hear from people is that astrology is really just confirmation of who they thought they might be, who they maybe had whispers of before. And it just helps them turn up the volume and walk more boldly and confidently in who they are, in their purpose, and in love, and how they're meant to make money. It's like a permission slip from the universe saying, be you. And this is amazing. And you are perfect just like you are. So that is why I love astrology. It was so helpful on my journey, especially after going through a spiritual awakening and kind of going through an identity crisis. It really helped me find my true self. And that's how I love to help people use astrology.
It's a beautiful way to connect to yourself, especially when you don't really know yourself. And many people live on autopilot, and suddenly one day they wake up and they're like, oh, but who am I? I don't even know what I like to do. I don't even know what am I here for. I don't even know these kind of things. Is the human, so the birth chart that you're talking about, is it similar to the human design? Is it maybe?
Yes, astrology is actually a part of human design. Human design has many different layers to it. Astrology is one piece of it. But yes, the two modalities are certainly related. And I think both have value. I have a really good friend who is into human design, and she does readings. And of course, I do astrology readings. So every now and then we kind of get together and compare notes. And we're like, yes, they're both amazing systems and they're very similar, but they do have some differences that make both of them very powerful for us to understand ourselves from both perspectives. So I love both modalities.
I was quite shocked because I did my human design, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And so the human design works on, you give your date of birth, name, you say if you're male or female, and the time of birth. And then it gives you this kind of big chart with like, okay, your identity, your character, your behavior, these kind of things. And I was like, oh, wow, it really relates to me. So Yeah, I was quite like, I was actually,
Yeah.
yeah, positively surprised, I would say. But it's true that I still don't know, and this is really, yeah, I'm being very open with you right now. But for example, astrology for me, since I'm young, I know everything about the horoscope. You know, you go and you check every month. Is it gonna be my month? Am I gonna find love? Am I gonna be rich? Am I gonna, these kind of things. I've been used
Mhm.
to read the astrology of the month, and if it was not positive, I would not believe into it. If it was positive, I would take it all, and I would be like here waiting for me to have my charming prince coming to me, right? This kind of thing. It was all about it. So
Mhm.
it has been really like, up and down, and not really me connecting to really the words and trying to understand it and everything. First of all, the astrology you're talking about the planet, the stars, the moon, and everything, is it really the same as the horoscope? And yeah, I have a lot of questions. I feel like, how can you how can you say that something, for example, you're saying there is now a movement of like changes. Is it happening for everyone? Is it only for some people? Is it, how do you do all of that?
Yes, that's a very good question. So there's kind of think of it as two layers, right? There's your birth charts, and your birth chart shapes the energy of you for your entire life, right? And then there are the planetary movements. And the planetary movements that are currently happening, like I just talked about eclipse season, they do affect all of us because we're all in this experience right now. So those energy flows that are happening in our current environment in reality are affecting each of us on an individual level, but slightly differently based on our birth chart, because the planets in the sky that are happening right now in those movements actually make different connections with each of our birth charts. So those, we call them transits, like the present time, those movements, those connections are helping you open up and access different parts of you, if that makes sense. So it's
Okay.
all about, I like to use astrology for personal growth, right? Like I look at it as, okay, I know that this particular movement is happening. How is this helping me in my life? How is this helping me to grow? How is this helping me to unlock something within myself that maybe I didn't have access to before, that I hadn't explored before? So that's how I like to look at it. But it is a very learning astrology is like learning another language. And I know because I'm trying to learn Spanish right now. And
Okay.
so it is a complex system. And so that's kind of where the whole concept of horoscopes came to be, right? We wanted to take a very complex system and make it something simple that people could relate to. And
Mhm.
yes, our horoscopes can have value, but oftentimes you don't want to look at it as kind of point blank, like this is what it is. You've got to look at it from a bigger perspective. You've got to look at it from a deeper perspective. And so that's why I would encourage you to, like, anyone who's interested in astrology and likes horoscopes, find an astrologer who doesn't put it in a box, but is
Mm.
providing astrological information, maybe more in the form of questions or possibilities, or here's how to move through this, as opposed to you're going to meet the love of your life tomorrow. Because, personal choice, free will is always at play as well. So it doesn't matter what the planets are doing, we always have the ability to create our reality. And it's not about what's happening to us, it's about our responses and our reactions to that, right? So I would take it more as possibilities as opposed to imminent, this is what's going to happen. That's how I look at it personally.
I think it's because we are very impatient. We don't have patience anymore, This life is too fast. We have everything so quickly. We
Yeah.
want something, we can just order it quickly. We want, like, we swipe quickly. All the choices are here. There are a lot of options. So I think, yeah, what you're saying is slow down and wait, and it makes sense. How do you help people with astrology? I'm curious now to know, because you were saying you're reading cards. How do you do that?
Yeah. Yes. So I'll do birth chart readings for people where we sit down and we dig into who they are based on their birth chart, and come up with guidance for them based on whatever it is they're moving through in their life. So oftentimes people will come, sometimes people just want a better understanding of who they are, what the possibilities are for them, or they'll have questions about purpose, right? So we can see purpose, we can see career, we can see, money, we can see relationships in a birth chart, and then looking at how the planets are currently interacting. So that's how I help people, is I just help people explore themselves and find clarity and direction through the tool of astrology.
And I guess that was
And
not.
and another way,
And yeah, sorry.
sorry,
No, you were.
the other thing I didn't mention, and I do talk about this not in the book, but I do also have a spirituality program, Ascended Life program that people can take as well, which is an online course. And in that, I talk about how to align your spiritual compass through using astrology, because we can actually see in our birth chart why we manifested into this reality, what we're here to overcome, and what we're here to become along our spiritual path. And so that can be really powerful too, in terms of, the spiritual journey can feel very overwhelming, but when we can really hone in on, this is what I'm here to transcend, it can become really powerful. So that's another way that I like to help people using astrology.
Yeah. And as you're saying, it's all about the spiritual world. Like, not everyone will believe in astrology, but if you are spiritual, and the whole thing about spirituality is really to have, you are here for a reason. Now find your reason, find your purpose, and then go through your life with that. But I guess you're like you are not born knowing all of that, right, Kesley? And you've been through different experiences in life who led you to be the person and the woman, the amazing woman that you are right now. But when you were younger, you were just like, you did your studies, and then I know that you were also doing a lot of gym, fitness industry, etc. So how do you think everything has shifted for you? And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Well, kind of along the lines of what I said earlier, right? Like, I was living a life, and it was a beautiful life, right? Like, I was focused on my career, right before I went through my spiritual awakening, I had literally just been promoted to my dream job. I was doing fitness competitions. I had a lot of friends, like making good money, like all the thing, like checking all the boxes, right? And number one, I was super stressed, not because of the external world, but because of what was going on internally. And I reached a point where I realized I don't want to go on this way for the next 70, 80, however many years of my life. Like, this is just too heavy. I've got to change something. And I also started to feel this call toward knowing that even though I had a great job and I liked what I did, it didn't feel fulfilling. And I wanted to feel something. I wanted to feel life on a deeper level. Like, yeah, I'd experienced happiness and joy, but it wasn't like this deep level of joy and love and gratitude that I have access to feeling now. It was like my feelings were almost like numbed, because I was just so focused on going and doing and becoming and checking the boxes and whatever. And I wanted to feel. And life just became too uncomfortable where I was. And so, how did I get here? I just started to seek. I just started to realize, like, there's got to be more. There's got to be something I don't know. And so I started to research all the things that I was raised Catholic, actually. And so I just decided I wanted to explore. And so I opened the doors to astrology and energy healing and meditation. And long story short, that's how I got here. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I got here.
Long story
Being a
short,
seeker.
as you're saying, yeah,
Being a seeker.
that is amazing. I'm always impressed about people like you who are like really following their journey and doing so many different things, because I feel like we talk about becoming talented in one thing at a time. I feel like in our society, like, choose one thing, stick to it, and just like be good at it, master it, etc., etc., etc. And when I see people like you who are like doing different things, like Reiki, NLP practitioner, astrology, you now just wrote your book, I love it, because I feel like, yeah, you can definitely do a lot of different things as well, and just enjoy your life and fulfill the one and unique purpose that you have, which is to help people in whatever way you want to. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, because I love that. Yeah, it resonates with me a lot. And I feel like we don't have to stop yourself from doing things that we want. If astrology is something that you want to try it, and why not? And try other stuff around you, and that's how you grow, and that's how you build a life that is more aligned with yourself. And that's what you did, because you started with the kind of like, I don't want to say it, but I say like normal path, right? That the society say it's normal to have your job, you're married, you have you're ticking the boxes, as you were saying before, the kind of normal life, and people don't explore because it's kind of like, this is the way we have to do it. But no, there is so much more out there. And I'm not saying go and quit your corporate job. I'm saying keep your corporate job, but maybe explore what else is out there, and what else you could be talented in, and what else could be interesting for you, and what else could change your life forever. So
you just hit on something so important, because it comes back to something we talked about earlier, which was limiting beliefs. And you're touching on some of the very limiting beliefs that I had to face, which were, okay, well, astrology, well, that's woo-woo, that's weird, everyone will think I'm crazy. Okay, that's a limiting belief. Like, that is me limiting myself based on what other people think. Well, I can't have a spiritual business, a life coaching business while I'm working a corporate job. Why not? Why can't you do both? So I did, right? Well, I can't write a book and be a mother. Well, why not? Like, find a way to do it. Okay, let's do this, right? So anytime, once again, that we're telling ourselves this is the only way, this isn't possible, I can't do it because, those are limiting beliefs. And so truly, that's one of the reasons why I talk about limiting beliefs so much in the book. It's because it's been one of the biggest things that I had to overcome on my spiritual journey. Because when we look at ourselves from a spiritual place, we are truly limitless. You can do anything. Any one of us can, because we are meant to be limitless. So I hope that someone hears that and realizes, like, you know what? Yeah, I can do it. I can do it all. Yes, you can. Maybe not all at once, but you can do it all. You can have it all. You can be it all.
I believe in that so much. But again, as we were saying before, sometimes it's just about being able to shut down the noise, to not compare yourself to others, to not listen to the judgment, to not stick to what your education has taught you, what your parents has taught you, sometimes we can be feeling so, we stop ourselves so much about what is around us, instead of coming back to what is inside of us and give it to the world around us. So love that. It is beautiful. My God, so many things I want to talk about with you, but I feel like this podcast will go for 3 hours if we have to. Is there any, so you started the podcast by saying, if you feel stuck, start by journaling. But is there any other thing that you would say to people who are really complete beginners, let's say, in their spiritual journey? They are curious about it, they are touching on it, right? But they're still really, like, I don't know, maybe skeptical, and at the same time stuck, and want to have some changes in their life. What advice would you give?
Wow. Okay. A couple of things. So absolutely journaling, meditation. We've touched on that many times. Something I talk a little bit about in the book, but even on my journey in the last few months, that I think is foundational, is being mindful of what you put in your body and your physical health, like your actual physical health, because our physical body is our vessel. So if you're eating crappy food, you're drinking, crappy water, and you're not exercising, it's going to be very difficult to build a spiritual vessel. I know it sounds simple and basic, but start with your physical health. That's very important. The last thing that I would say is, I think for a lot of people, again, focusing on what you want in your goals can kind of seem like an easier way to get into the spiritual journey. So one of the things I did very early on, even before I considered myself spiritual, was I had what I called at the time a bucket list. Now I would call it a life list, right? Like all those things that I wanted to do, or make a list of goals, make a vision board if that speaks to you. But the most important part is this: ask yourself, who would I need to become to live this life, to manifest these goals? And then start to show up in your life as that person. Because that's truly, again, what the spiritual life, the spiritual journey is about. It's about transcending, transforming, becoming the fullest expression of you. And so set the bar high for yourself. go after it, but most importantly, focus on internally becoming the person who can live that life, who can bring your dreams into reality. So there's a few things I would suggest, Mel.
I have goosebumps as you're talking and about self-discovery. Just one thing I want to come back on. You said it's important to have a good physical health and nutrition and everything to connect with yourself. Can you just explain a bit more?
Absolutely. So it kind of comes back to what your friend was saying, right? About the different voices that we have, or what I said about the two different voices. The voice of doubt and fear and uncertainty and you can't do it and trauma, that will be much louder if you're fueling your body with toxic foods, toxic drinks, whatever it is, right? So if you're putting a lot of caffeine into your body, if you're drinking all the time, if you're eating all kinds of non-organic and GMO foods, I'll be honest, like those sorts of things are going to taint what you're hearing internally. And so it's really important to have a clear channel to focus on, I like to drink alkaline water. I eat all organic foods, non-GMO foods, like all of that is very, very important. I've actually become a raw vegan, mainly raw, not 100%, but almost. And since I made that shift, my channel is so much more clear than it was before. I know that's probably going to sound really extreme for a lot of people, but even to start by being mindful of what you're putting in your body, sticking, getting away from the processed foods, all the caffeine, all that, it will help you drastically with your confidence. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, it's going to help with all that stuff. Our food is one of the biggest things that's working against us in this society. So I'm glad you gave me a chance to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, because I love this topic, Kesley. I love it so much. Like I am also like learning more about not eating processed food, eating healthy, but eating healthy doesn't mean like you have to restrict yourself or no, you have a lot of amazing food that you can associate together. And people sometimes, look at you like, oh my God, you always want to eat clean or come and have a drink. Why don't you drink alcohol? Why these kind of things? But people don't understand that when you start to feel amazing inside, you can just feel amazing outside. And I started to realize the more I was less going out for parties and waking up at 5 a.m. to go to sunrise instead, the more I was starting to do that, the more I attracted success into my life. And I don't talk about that much with people around me because as you said, like people will be like, oh, well, come on, like you're a bit you and whatever. But it's so true. Like when you start to have a bit of more consistency and discipline into your life, and we all know what is good for us. Like people can tell me, yeah, but I love junk food so much. This makes me happy. Yeah, but no. Like, at the end of the day that you can have junk food once a week, but having junk food every day, that you're not going to feel good and you're going to be a kind of a potato on the couch and you're not going to move and you're not going to do anything. So don't lie to yourself as well. So it's very hard sometimes to have this conversation with people, especially, for example, people who love to go and have drinks outside, and it's fine. I completely respect that and I don't judge, but it's more about, okay, but have you tried to do it differently? When you come and tell me and complain about your problems in your life, have you tried, in fact, to just do the small and easy shifts instead of thinking about go and pay a mentor, go and have like, the big changes? Maybe just come back to the small daily habits and try to change a bit. Switch the coffee just for a week and tell me how you feel. Are you still brain fog? Are you still, this kind of thing? So I love that. I love this topic so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old saying, I don't know if they say this over in Australia, but you are what you eat, right? Y'all probably do say that. You are what you eat. So think about what is the energy of the food that I'm consuming. Is my food alive? Is it filled with energy and nutrients? And how do I feel after I eat it? Or do I feel heavy? Do I feel tired? Do I feel, is it something that's in a package where all the energy is actually stripped out of it and I'm not actually even getting any sort of value from eating this, right? If you are what you eat and you truly believe that, what would you choose to put into your body? That would be a question I would challenge everyone to think about next time we go into the kitchen.
Exactly. And I'll add to that, try to stick to something that would feel good for you for a week and see what the changes are coming in, like the changes and the success that you'll attract to your life. Now, it's not easy. I don't want to go to the, like, it's not easy, definitely, but it comes back to a goal and to your why and maybe to your purpose. And maybe some people find it hard to switch and to change their daily habits because they haven't found their purpose yet in life. And that comes back to the book.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. But I totally agree with you. I have to go back on that. It's like, well, sometimes we can't make the change because we're focusing on what we're giving up instead of what we're moving toward. Anytime we manifest anything in life, we want to focus on what am I moving toward? What do I want? And what does it take to get there instead of what do I have to give up to get there? So if you keep looking in the rear of your mirror, what are you going to do? You're going to be running into things. You're going to be, hitting other cars, right? You want to be looking forward, moving forward toward what you want. And that's how you'll have that success in your life. So yes, beautiful point, Mel. Beautiful point.
Find a goal, find your why, and you will definitely eventually get there with the right tools. And that's why I invite everyone to go and find your book. Where can you find your book? When can people find your book?
Yes, it's on my website. So you can either find me on social media, which is at Kesley Spirit Guide on Instagram, or the website address is life.kesleytweed.com. And I'm glad to send that to you, Mel, so that you can help people find it.
I'll definitely put that in the description of the podcast. It was amazing to have another chat with you, Kesley. I feel like, again, we talked about so many beautiful things, and I invite people to also listen to the other episode that we did together about empathy, positive emotions, and how not to be a sponge and not, take on our shoulders all the emotions that can be spreaded all around us. Thank you so much for all this time. Did you want to share any last thing before closing this podcast?
Wow, what to close on. First of all, just gratitude for you, for having me, for everyone who's listening. And I would just say this, we are at a very exciting time in our reality. And all of us have this opportunity to shift and to truly be creators of whatever it is that we want to experience in this world. So now is the time to step into being your true self, to just following your heart. That's what I would say, is just follow your heart and see where it guides you. So thank you, Mel. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for you, Kesley. And I will close on that note. Thank you so much. See you soon. And please, people, if you like the podcast and enjoyed it, put 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Pocket, whatever platform you're listening on. Please share this episode with whoever would be interested with and who it could help, maybe. And I'll see you on the next episode.